Welcome back again. This is the second part of working on the ailerons. As promised, this morning went out there, got after it, so I'm starting with dimpling the skins for the ailerons. It's funny, one of the best and worst things about building the wings is you get to do everything twice. If it's something enjoyable, it's fun to do it twice. If it's tedious, it's dreadful because you have to do it again. This wasn't that bad. All of this work today I enjoyed. The little fabrication and riveting and dimpling, and it was all good stuff. You saw me take a pause in the middle of dimpling. When you see me do stuff like that, you can't hear it because I've got the sound muted, but I'm letting the air compressor catch up to what's going on. So there's all the primed ribs, or stiffeners, I guess. The first batch of them anyways. I'm getting ready to back rivet them on. Once again, I'm using that Scotch wall-safe tape. It seems to work really well, and it's pretty affordable and easy to get. So standard back riveting practice, populate the holes with the rivets, put the tape on to hold it. You can see I've already got the back riveting plate laying there on the edge of the bench. And now I'm going through, remember I meticulously numbered these stiffeners to go right back where I drilled them for. More on that later. And now it's just a matter of back riveting them. This is a pretty quick process. Later on the second aileron here in the video, I'm going to slow it down to real-time speed for the first 3 stiffeners and include sound so you get an idea of what it actually looks like. It's really not that bad of a process. So let me peel off the tape. I realized I missed a rivet somehow. Pulled the rivet out with it, put the tape back on, finished it off. And now, same thing on the other side. Second side gets a little harder just because you've got to contend with the trailing edge. Most rivets, the rivet gun butts up against the stiffeners you already installed. But it's not a big deal. While I'm doing this, I just watched Chris's newest video. It's really weird watching his video, watching my video, and I'm sure if you watched it long enough, you'd see his videos in the background of the video I was watching. Great guy, great builder. I've learned so much watching his channel. He mentioned that I'm ahead of him. I am very slightly ahead of him. It is a terrifying prospect. It feels like I don't have the safety floaties on anymore. So now I'm making all new and unusual mistakes for everybody. Good times. We'll just press on and see what happens. So I think this was the left aileron. No, this was the right one. This was the right aileron. You see me bust out the spars for the ailerons here, because those are the next thing that start getting prepped. This was just giving me some time while the stiffeners for the right one, or for the left one, are drying. These spars are directional, so once you get them unmarked, you need to go verify with the plans that you have them labeled with top, bottom, inboard, outboard, all that good stuff. You don't want to mix them up. Just cleaning up the edge on this left aileron. I did it on the right, you just didn't see it on the video. I was using that sanding block to get rid of the little aluminum nibs that are on the end from where they cut this out of the sheet, and then to just slightly round the corners so they're not sharp. Edge deburring tool, deburr all the edges, and now same thing as before, populate the holes with all the rivets. And here comes the part where I'm going to slow it down and let you watch me rivet the first few of these on. I'll try and adjust the volume so it doesn't blow out your speakers or headset if you're listening to this, but it's going to be a little loud, and it's going to be riveting noises. Hope that wasn't too bad. Standard back riveting stiffener practice, you start in the middle and then work your way out towards the edges. Want to make sure you hold it firmly down against that back riveting plate so you get a good set on the rivets. All in all, went pretty quick. So you'll see me pause every now and then. Remove the tape, make sure it all looks good. And now I'm getting ready for the bend. These need to be bent down just like the elevators and the rudder. You need that edge to be much tighter. So I'm using the dowels to make sure I get the radius set right when I start the bend. I don't want to crease that trailing edge. The hardest part when you're first starting is it's so wide that it wants to push out of that homemade brake. So I'm using that other block of wood to give me something to grip onto to help hold it in place. It also doesn't completely fit in the brake, so I got to slide it back and forth to keep bending. I'm using clamps as handles. The cheap Harbor Freight one I was using first snapped, so should have just used the big metal ones to begin with. Now you're supposed to bend this so that that spar just rests inside of there and it doesn't want to pull away from it or is being pulled apart by it. So it's a lot of bending. It's a lot more than you think you're going to have to do. I find it's best to put pressure on it and then work it with your hand while you're holding pressure with the wood. And you saw me get the straight edge out. The whole point of that is to make sure I'm not putting a bow or any kind of bend in that trailing edge, which that first one had a slight bow in it. I flipped it over and it quickly took it out, and then it was straight on both sides. So now I'm doing it to the second one. You also notice I pulled the dowels out. Once you get to a certain point in the bend, you have to pull them out, but at that point you should have a decent radius on that trailing edge. And there you go. That's a shot of just how close it ends up having to be squeezed together. Also, I took the carpet off the bench. I learned this, I think, on the elevators. The carpet adds too much springiness to it, so you really need a hard surface to bend up against so it doesn't have any give to it. Just make sure that you clean it off really well. Now it's on to the .040 reinforcement plates that you have to make. There's 4 of them, one on each end of the spar for the ailerons. This is going to be a reinforcement plate which attaches the nose of the aileron, the tail, trailing edge ribs, and it's also an attach point for the aileron brackets. There is a lot going on in this one little area, and the plans and the directions get more and more vague as we go along. I'll do my best to show you guys and explain, I think, what I figured out and what's going on here. And it's possible I might have just missed something in the plans or the instructions. But you use the spar as a template to drill out the reinforcement plates. So the reinforcement plates are that .040. They're 2.5 inches by 2 3/4 inches. Easy enough to make. You put them on the end of the spar, flush lined up with the end, clamp them down, and then you start transferring the holes. There are number 30 holes, number 40 holes, and eventually number 12 bolt holes. There you go, all in that end. So there it is after the first round of drilling. And now I'm just doing the same thing on the other one. Oh, quick note, I forgot to mention it. When I was putting those stiffeners on the second aileron, the second set, I didn't number at all. It wasn't that I forgot, it was that I wanted to, I guess, test and see how good the match hole drilling is and does it really matter if they go back, and it didn't. I have no clue what order they went on, but that second one, they all just dropped right where they were supposed to, and they all went in perfectly fine. So your mileage may vary, but it may be a waste of time to number and make sure they all go back exactly where they were. This, on the other hand, is very different. All of these parts, once you drill them to those spots, have to go back exactly where they were. They are specific to their location. There you can see I'm putting on the brackets, and the holes that mount that get upsized to number 12. So it's 3 holes on the inboard one and 2 holes on the outboard one. Now, here soon, the plans are going to tell me, once I'm done drilling all of these, to go ahead and deburr, prime if I want to, and assemble those reinforcement plates onto the spar. I assume that's for fit up of other things later on. The problem is I want to prime all of these, but I can't prime the rest of that spar until I final size drill it, dimple it, and do all of the prep work to it. But I still want primer in between these reinforcement plates and the spar, so I decided the best thing to do is I'll just scuff up the plates and prime them, and then I'll do the same thing with the spot on the spar it goes to. So slowing this down so you can see what's going on. All of the number 40 holes need to be machine countersunk. 2 on the outboard edge are where the trailing edge rib is going to mount to, and that's going to be under other stuff in the front, the bracket, so it has to be countersunk and use flush head rivets. The 2 slightly inboard ones are for a nut plate, and then on the outboard end of the spar there's 2 more for the other rib. So anywhere there's a number 40 hole, it's going to have to get machine countersunk, and you have to machine countersink it because that is too thick a material to dimple. Plans don't tell you any of this, they just tell you what rivets you need to use. Well, sort of. I'll get to that in a minute too. So went through, finished the holes, finished machine countersinking all of the reinforcement plates. And then I'm going to scuff everything up, make sure it stays marked, and I'm going to go prime everything. And then I figure with these parts on the end primed, later on once everything else is matched up and done, then I can go through and scuff up the rest of that spar and just prime over all of it. It should be good to go. So there it is after priming. You see I just shot it on the end there and covered the reinforcement plates. So now you got to Cleco it together, and it tells you to attach the nut plates. So there are 2 nut plates on the inboard most ones. They're K1000-3s, and install the reinforcement plate to the spar. That gets done with 3 470 4-4 rivets, which the plans call out. The one thing the plans don't call out, and I didn't see it anywhere in the directions, it tells you to install the nut plates. Doesn't tell you what rivet to use, but I guess we've come far enough along in this build that you should be able to figure it out. I figured the 426 4-4 was the perfect length for the nut plate and that countersunk spot right there, and they worked out perfect. So you want to put the nut plates on, And once those are on, go ahead and squeeze the 470 4-4 rivets, the 3 most inboard ones on that plate. The rest of the holes get left open. 2 of them are going to be for attaching the nose rib to. 2 of them are for attaching the trailing edge rib, and then the remaining big holes are the bolt holes for the brackets when they go on. So like I said, there's a lot going on in this one spot. But it was fun to do. It looks like I accomplished something. Meanwhile, the entire time in the background, you see me break away once in a while. I'm cranking out tumblers for my wife's work team on the laser engraver. There you go. A shot of them riveted in place so you can get an idea of what's going on there. You can go back and pause it if you need to look at it for some reference of your own. So I know I looked at the plans plenty and tilted my head a few times trying to figure out what they were trying to tell me. So here's the nose to the ailerons. The skin is not marked left or right, so I assume it can go either way. The ribs are marked left and right, and depending on which one you put where denotes which one you end up building. So I'm assuming once you put them together, you have to keep them marked so you know where they go. 2 of the holes are not drilled in the ribs, so you got to cleat them in place now and then final drill 2 of those holes through the skin and into the rib. And that's about as far as I'm going to make it tonight. Pretty productive day. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get some more of this assembly done, and we'll see what happens. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. Go check out Chris's channel if you haven't, and I will see you all on the next one.